Hello, world history students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have your notes for Chapter 10, Section 2, the Trading States of East Africa. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the different peoples that we're going to hear about within this section. We're going to hear about the Kush, who you might see in this area that's sometimes known as Nubia, along the Nile River, the Askim, kind of along an area that is basically in today modern day Ethiopia, the Great Zimbabwe, kind of south in what would be along the Zambezi River, and the Swahili city states along the eastern coast of Africa. And if you can kind of see here, the big thing to remember is your directions here. East Africa, obviously, this is the whole eastern coast of Africa. Sometimes this is known as the Horn of Africa right here. But this is the region that we're talking about primarily. And as you can see, there are quite a few different trade zones, particularly along the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, through the Persian Gulf, back down the Indian Ocean coast of East Africa, and again along the interiors of Africa, kind of in a region known as the Great Rift Valley, which we'll talk a little bit about. Anyway, Section 2, the trading states of East Africa, the Askim, were able to rise to power because they had developed as a wealthy trading kingdom along the Red Sea. They defeated their rival trading kingdoms of the Kush in about the year 8350. The Askim started to decline when Muslim invaders destroyed its port cities, cutting it off from trade. Got to remember, this is right across from the Arabian Peninsula, and for years there had been a series of wars between the peoples of Arabia and the peoples of this eastern Horn part of Africa, and it would go on for years. Matter of fact, when we hear about Ibn Battuta, he talks a little bit about the warfare that prevented him from traveling to Mecca via that route. Anyway, what goods were traded from Africa's interior in East Africa? You would have seen things like coconut oil, copper, leopard skins, which were kind of favored by nobility, not only just in Africa, but throughout the world that could have received this as a trading item. Shells, ivory, and gold, all of which are things that are, to a certain degree, are still kind of in demand in this day and age. East African trade was affected by monsoons, and that the seasonal shifting of the winds made East Africa accessible to sailors from Persia, Arabia, and India, even as well as Southeast Asia. So when the weather was favorable, these ships would come in, and when the weather changed, they could go out, and this allowed for some trade to happen. Kilwa, which is a wealthy city along kind of the east coast of Africa, along the Indian Ocean, became the wealthiest and most powerful East African coastal city-state because of its southernmost city that traders would reach in a single monsoon season. Kilwa controlled all goods south of that point. The word Zimbabwe means in Shona, stone house. And you can see below here, there's a couple of images of what is known as the Great Zimbabwe, the stone houses. These were built centuries ago and yet still stand. Kind of a testament to the architecture that was developed in this part of the world. You might note when you're looking down on this one photo to the left here, the structure itself is not perpendicular. It is actually a circular structure. And you're going to find that quite often in a lot of architecture coming out of East Africa. We're kind of used to having a lot of buildings here in the United States made perpendicular with their, like 90-degree angles and right angles and such. But in parts of Africa, you're not going to find that. And this is an example of that. So the people of the Great Zimbabwe may have abandoned the site because the land had become overgrazed by cattle, and soil had probably lost its fertility. Hence, the people moved on to find better lands to meet their needs. Thank you very much.